Beatty studies and experiments intensely, applying his extensive dance knowledge to create provocative choreography.
I can make up steps, I can choreograph a dance very simply, but to really create a dance from an idea and to hold to the idea and show my blackness, that interests me most.
In his first choreography, Beatty reaches for a highly emotional and technical effect. It is clearly seen in his early solos.
I don't think anyone quite danced with such passion as Talley. It was so complete. He was a complete artist in his dance, and all of his passions went into his movements.
In 1947, Beatty creates the Mourner's Bench, where the dancer meditates about a life lost through racial violence. It is a sharp departure from his work with Dunham.
It's sitting on the mourner's bench. Then it's a personal expression of grief. And he is thinking upon the events of the day. And he's just moving across the bench and looking out, moving across the bench.
He would go to a place within himself. It was startling to watch him do it.
It feels good to give yourself over to the dance, to just let your spirit go on that journey, being connected to the divine in the way that you're connected to that when you shout, when you praise in church.
The stage is the place where I feel free, where I feel like I can be vulnerable. I can just kind of strip away layers of stuff and open myself out.
You can tell.
We are called to do what we do, and because of that, there is a love there, there's a pull there, there's emotionality there. You reach the full spectrum of possibility, of emotion within one day.
Critics praise the Mourner's Bench for its passion and masculinity. However, what the modern dance community notices most is the accessibility in the work of emerging black choreographers.
African-American choreographers were stretching, really just pushing the edges of the envelope with what modern dance was. Now, the modern dance world had its look and had its feel and had its texture when they came in the door. You come out of the Graham era, the gray woolens era of Graham, and suddenly, instead of going to Greece and using Greek myths, instead of going to India and using Indian dance, people went home and brought home to the theater in a way that was very, very meaningful, touching, and had this incredible visceral effect on the audience.
The impact of homegrown dance is evident in the work of another African-American choreographer, Donald McKayle. McKayle turns the street play he learned growing up in New York City into a dance he calls games.
In the barn of Larry, sweetest little sissy I ever did see. Oh, barn.
I grew up in East Harlem, and East Harlem at the time of my youth there was very mixed. It had originally been a lot of Jewish families there, Italian families, and families from Puerto Rico and the Caribbean islands came in, and black families came in. I had friends in all these different ethnicities. And when I did games, there was no instrumental music because I felt that the way I had played in the street was music being sung, chants, shouts.
I went downtown to get my grip. I come back home just to pull in the skip, just to pull in the skip, just to pull in the skip.
Donnie McKayle is the consummate storyteller in a lot of ways. He told stories about the things that were happening in the America that he knew.
To pull in the skip, just to pull in the skip, just to pull in the skip.
Choreography by Donald McKayle brings to mind for me a phenomena that we see actually across the arts in the 1950s, and I would think of it more, I guess I would use the term kind of a new realism, something more political, something more social.
I saw a cop walking down the street, swinging his billy and strutting his beat. He's gonna catch you, beat you hard, break all of your bones, so help me God.
A sense that there's inequality that also presents itself in society.
Well, it's early in the morning when I rise. Well,
In Sketching in America, rarely danced on the concert stage, McKayle advances the tradition inherited from Dunham and Primus, engaging audiences while exploring difficult themes. In Rainbow Round My Shoulder, he addresses the plight of men on a Southern chain gang.
I had heard chain gang songs with Leon Bibb singing on his recording, and I began to respond to those.
In those days, they were literally chained ankle to ankle.
Lord,
And they were rhythmically singing. And I was aware of the rhythm because it was very pronounced. I got a rainbow tied all around my shoulder. I got a rainbow tied all around my shoulder.
I got a rainbow.
Rainbow is the name that the prisoners give to the pickaxe which they carry over their shoulders, which is in the shape of an arc.
My Lord, I'm going home. Everywhere.
It was all about striking and punching and hard labor. There was anger in it, a lot of anger.
Where I look this morning.
All through these songs, there's always this aspiration for freedom, and they always talked about women, something they were kept away from. So I said, the freedom is going to be in the shape of a woman.
I'm going downtown, gonna get me a jug of brandy. Give it all to Nancy, keep her good drunk and goosey.
greasy all the time. Keep her good and drunk and goosey all the time. And while I'm downtown, gonna get me a sack of flour, cook it every hour, keep my skillet good and greasy all the time. Keep my skillet good and greasy all the time. And if she says so, I'll never work no more. I'll hang around her shanty all the time.
When you look at Rainbow Round My Shoulder, you're looking at snapshots from his America.
They killed another man.
It was a snapshot with a punchline. You know, it was something that showed you not only what that life was like, but told you what that life did to the people who lived it.
In the early 50s, the opportunity for a black modern dancer was almost nil.
As a consequence, black dancers seek out any chance to perform. In 1954, a special opportunity surfaces, a Broadway musical which assembles African-American dancers from both coasts.
One of the really magical moments was when we got together for House of Flowers.
At that time, it's very rare to have a show, a musical, that was mainly with people of color, mainly with blacks. The dancers and the performers were very excited about something at last coming along that they could do.
From the West Coast, the show's choreographer invites Carmen de Lavalade and Alvin Ailey to dance in the production. Ailey and de Lavalade studied modern dance in Los Angeles with Lester Horton, a pioneer who established one of America's first integrated dance companies.
Alvin Ailey looked like a running back. If you saw him walk, you say he can't dance. But when he got on the stage, you had to take all that back.
All of a sudden, you saw the muscular ease in which he moved. And it was very sensual and almost cat-like, you know.
In time, Alvin Ailey comes to realize that there are far too few opportunities for the black dancer.
I felt immediately when I got to New York City the need for a modern dance repertory company where I could develop dancers as well as choreographers.
Alvin said, I want to start a company because there are too many black modern dancers who don't have a place to perform. And I really think it's time that we have a place
where black dancers could feel that what they did was important and had value. Alvin would talk about this. He would talk about his dream. I heard Alvin Ailey's dream before I heard Martin Luther King's dream. Alvin just opened his heart to most of us, and we began to listen because he had a kind of urgency.
I had lots of what I call blood memories about Texas, old blues and spirituals and gospel music and ragtime music and folk songs. So the first ballets that I made when I came to New York were based on those feelings.
It was dance on a shoestring in a big way. Just a small company with people from Broadway shows. Couldn't pay them for rehearsal time. And you got a chance to really see right there what made the Ailey dancer. It's a dancer who could do dance dramas. You had to be able to emote on stage. You had to be able to, at the same time, show that technique. You had this blend of modern, jazz, and ballet. He created, almost with an alchemy, he created this whole new way of dancing.
That they call the rising sun.
I think that the importance of Alvin Ailey is that he fuses the white modern dance tradition with that of Primus and Dunham. He calls his dance company the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, and it happens when we can no longer ignore the fact that America is a pluralistic society, and that in fact all of these folks deserve to be called American.
I had listened to what my mom.
There was no money at all. If you love what you're doing, then it doesn't matter that you didn't get paid. It was something that we had to do. My first payment from Alvin was a note and a flower. That was it, a thank you note and a flower.
He said to me that he wanted to give a concert, and I said, oh God, Alvin, I'd love to help you, whatever you want me to do. You know, tell me and I'll do it. And that's how it started, and I did everything for him but dance.
He knocked out the word can't, you know, do. His slightest suggestion that there's a way to do it. And we worked for 6 months to create Alvin Ailey's show.
We used to rehearse at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, costume fittings. No one thought anything of it. I mean, this was just the way that it had to be done. If you wanted to perform then, you had to use what was available to you. There were no rehearsal studios, nothing like there is now. I mean, it was just a different world.
The dance that gels during the months of rehearsal is a suite titled Revelations, based on the spiritual music of Ailey's early childhood. The spirituals, Ailey said, were the first music I could almost see.
The very first sequence, which has become a kind of signature thing, with those arms reaching up like Gothic cathedrals, very much in the spiritual, reaching up, out, in a kind of anguish.
I've been talked about, shows you go.
I think it was one of those things that just poured out of him. I think that's all that stuff that that had built up in Alvin, and it just all came out.
Alvin Ailey had the ability to give you a little bit, and then you took that little bit and took it inside. It's a powerful piece of imagery that's created very quickly for you. How does an artist like Alvin Ailey know that that's going to be universally seen? For Alvin to come up with ladies sitting with their fans on a stool is just an absolute masterpiece of capturing something you would see in black churches. You would see these ladies very dressed with huge hats, and the fans would be all in rhythm. You could look down a pew line and they would all have the same rhythm. Now, for Alvin Ailey to pick up on a thing like that,
Some folks go to church just to signify, trying to make a date with the neighbor's wife. Neighbor, let me tell you that you're short, you're born, you better leave that woman, just leave her alone. One of these days, just mark my word, your neighbor has gone to work. Walk up, knock on the door, like our brother, you'll knock. Go tell that tell that right, tell the doctor
The performance went very well, we thought, and we all seemed to know what we were doing. And the end of the piece came, and the curtain came down, and we were standing behind the curtain, holding hands, ready to take our bow, and there was dead silence in the audience. They brought the curtain up, and as they brought the curtain up, the audience jumped to their feet, and you just heard this roar, this deafening roar of bravos and applause and stamping and banging on the seats. It was just deafening. And we just sort of like, we looked around like, what's going on? Well, just bow. And we bowed, and we bowed. About 10 curtain calls.
And when it was over, no one wanted to leave. They almost asked for an encore to repeat it.
It's a powerful dance which, in fact, expresses to humanity the common nature of all of humanity.
Alvin Ailey draws upon that Africanist use of the body. He draws upon that Africanist spiritualism, that African-American spiritualism, and so many themes and elements that African-American dancers had been exploring up to that point. And in Revelations, we see these things come alive on the concert stage in such a powerful artistic statement that modern dance would never be the same again.
Next, as great performances continues, Black choreographers respond to a changing world, presenting an array of experience in their dances.
I look forward to being part of a generation of artists who open doors by saying African American dance can be absolutely anything.
The conclusion of Free to Dance, next on Dance in America.